They seated me in the kitchen at my brother's wedding. I smiled, excused myself, and calmly made a phone call. What they didn't know was that I held the power to destroy a $30 million deal with a single sentence. By the time dessert was served, the bride's father was begging me not to ruin 3 generations of his family's empire. But it was already too late. I'm Isabella Rivera, and this is the story of how a wedding seating chart became the most expensive mistake my family ever made. Before I tell you exactly how I dismantled their perfect day, I need you to understand how we got here. Drop your location in the comments below if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. Hit that subscribe button and let me take you back to where this nuclear-level revenge story really began. Growing up in Millbrook, New York, my brother Derek and I were inseparable. Only 2 years apart, we spent countless summers building elaborate tree houses in our backyard oak tree and winters racing sleds down Hillcrest Drive. Our mother Margaret would pack us matching lunches, and our father Thomas taught us both to play chess during long weekend afternoons. Those early years felt safe, equal, uncomplicated. The shift started gradually when we entered Millbrook High. Derek joined the varsity basketball team, following our father's athletic legacy. I gravitated toward the robotics club and academic decathlon. Our parents never missed one of Derek's games, cheering loudly from the bleachers alongside other proud families. My robotics competitions and debate tournaments, they'd usually have a last-minute conflict or arrive just as I was packing up my awards. Sports build character, my father would say, ruffling Derek's hair after another victory. All that computer stuff is just a phase, Isabella. You'll find something more practical eventually. I didn't find something more practical. Instead, I earned a full scholarship to Stanford for computer science, while Derek received a partial athletic scholarship to our father's alma mater, where his grades barely kept him eligible to play. During family holiday gatherings, conversations always centered around Derek's basketball highlights and campus social life. My academic achievements earned polite nods before someone inevitably steered the discussion back to Derek's latest adventures. After graduation, I worked 100-hour weeks at a Silicon Valley startup, absorbing everything I could about the tech industry. Meanwhile, Derek joined Rivera Construction, the family business our grandfather had built from nothing, and our father had grown into a regional success story. Despite having a business degree he'd barely earned with C- grades, Derek was immediately given a management position. It's about real-world experience, not just book learning, my mother explained when I questioned the obvious nepotism during a rare family dinner. Derek understands how things actually work in business. At 28, I made the decision that would change everything. I cashed in my modest savings, secured a small business loan, and founded Phoenix Tech Solutions. The first 18 months were absolutely brutal. I converted my studio apartment into an office, sleeping on an air mattress in the corner, while my dining table became my workspace. Ramen noodles and coffee constituted most of my meals as I poured every dollar into developing our proprietary software. When I called home during this period, conversations were brief and discouraging. "I'm worried about you, honey," my mother would say. "There's always a position here at your father's company if this computer thing doesn't work out." They never offered to invest, never asked about my business plan, never seemed to believe I could succeed without their safety net. Then came the breakthrough that changed everything. Phoenix Tech developed a revolutionary supply chain management system that caught the attention of several Fortune 500 companies. Suddenly, I was hiring employees, moving into a real office space, and fielding calls from investors who had previously ignored my pitches. The little computer thing had become a multi-million-dollar enterprise. It was during this explosive growth period that Derek met Victoria Blackwood at an exclusive charity auction in Manhattan. Victoria was the only daughter of Alexander Blackwood, owner of Blackwood Industries, a national commercial development empire worth over $2 billion. Their whirlwind romance was documented across social media with trips to Monaco, private jet weekends in Aspen, and front row seats at Fashion Week. My parents were absolutely ecstatic about this relationship. "Alexander has really taken Derek under his wing," my mother gushed during one of our monthly phone calls. He's introducing him to industry leaders and potential investors. This connection could transform our family business completely. The irony was suffocating. While my actual business achievements were still treated as an interesting hobby, Derek's romantic relationship was celebrated as a strategic corporate merger. 6 months into their courtship, Derek and Victoria announced their engagement. The Blackwood and Rivera families immediately began merging their social circles, with my parents suddenly attending country club galas and charity events they'd previously dismissed as pretentious nonsense. Here's what makes this story truly incredible. Through completely separate business channels, Blackwood Industries had been desperately searching for a technological solution to their increasingly complex supply chain challenges. Their operations director, Patricia Wells, discovered Phoenix Tech through an industry conference where I had delivered a keynote presentation about innovative logistics software. She had absolutely no idea about any family connection when she reached out to schedule a demonstration. After 4 months of presentations, security audits, and contract negotiations, Blackwood Industries signed a $30 million deal with Phoenix Tech Solutions. It was the largest contract in my company's history, one that would fund our international expansion and secure our position as an industry leader. I mentioned this massive deal to my parents during our weekly call, hoping they might finally acknowledge my professional success. "That's nice, dear," my mother replied absently. "Did you receive the invitation to Derek and Victoria's engagement party? It's being held at the Blackwood estate. Alexander has his own private golf course on the property." 3 weeks later, at the lavish engagement party, I met Alexander Blackwood for the first time. He was tall, impeccably dressed with silver hair and the commanding presence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. "So you're the brilliant innovator behind Phoenix Tech," he said, shaking my hand with genuine enthusiasm. "Patricia says your software presentation was exceptional. Your team's solution will save us millions in operational costs within the first year alone." "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. We're excited about the partnership," I replied, feeling genuinely appreciated for perhaps the first time at a family function. "Please call me Alexander. We should schedule a proper dinner soon. I'd love to discuss where you see technology heading in our industry." Before I could respond, my mother appeared beside us, her eyes wide with obvious surprise. "You two have met?" she asked, looking confused between us. "Just now," I replied. "Alexander was complimenting our software implementation." Alexander's eyebrows rose sharply. "Wait, Rivera? You're Derek's sister?" An uncomfortable silence fell over our small group. My mother laughed nervously, as if explaining away a child's peculiar hobby. "Oh, Isabella has always been our little tech genius. Derek focuses more on the construction and business development side of things, like his father." Alexander looked genuinely confused, but quickly recovered his composure. "Well, apparently brilliance runs in the family, just in completely different directions. This is quite a remarkable coincidence." It wasn't a coincidence that my brother had never mentioned my company to his future father-in-law. It was a deliberate omission. My success didn't fit the narrative Derek had carefully constructed about himself as the family's business achiever. Despite this revelation, I held on to hope that Derek's wedding might finally be the turning point I'd been waiting for. Perhaps the undeniable evidence of my success through the Blackwood contract would finally earn me the respect and recognition I'd worked so hard to achieve. I spent weeks selecting the perfect outfit for the wedding, a tailored emerald green dress that projected both elegance and authority. I even arranged for Julian Hayes, a respected venture capitalist I'd been dating for 4 months, to accompany me as my guest. "Are you sure you want me there?" Julian asked over dinner the week before the wedding. "From everything you've told me about your family dynamics, it sounds like it might be emotionally challenging." "That's exactly why I want you there," I admitted. "Having someone who sees me for who I actually am will help me maintain perspective and confidence." The night before the wedding, I called Derek, wanting to connect before the chaos of the celebration. "Hey, just wanted to say, I'm really excited for you tomorrow," I said when he answered. "Thanks, Izzy," he replied, sounding distracted. "It's absolutely crazy here. Victoria has the wedding planner on constant speed dial, and Alexander keeps adding more people to the guest list. Is there anything I can help with? Nah, we've got everything under control. A pause. Listen, about the seating arrangements. Yes. Nothing major, we've just had to make some last-minute adjustments with all the additional guests, but it's all handled. See you tomorrow. As I hung up, I felt a subtle twinge of unease, but I pushed it aside. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow I would finally be seen and valued. The Blackwood estate was absolutely breathtaking, sprawling across 40 acres of perfectly manicured gardens with stunning views of the Hudson River Valley. Luxury vehicles lined the winding cobblestone driveway, a collection of Bentleys, Maseratis, and Teslas that probably cost more than most people's homes. Julian whistled appreciatively as we pulled up in my Model S. You didn't mention this was going to be quite so extravagant, he said, adjusting his tie. I didn't know, I admitted honestly. This is my first time at the Blackwood estate. A uniformed valet opened my door with a practiced smile. Welcome to the Blackwood Rivera wedding, ma'am. The main house was a stunning Georgian colonial mansion with white columns and symmetrical wings extending from either side. A professional string quartet played softly near an ornate marble fountain where guests in formal attire mingled with champagne flutes in hand. White roses and peonies adorned every surface, their delicate fragrance mixing with the fresh air from the nearby river. Isabella! My mother's voice carried across the garden. She approached wearing a pale lavender dress she'd mentioned purchasing specifically for this occasion during multiple phone conversations. You're here. And who is this handsome gentleman? Mom, this is Julian Hayes. Julian, my mother, Margaret Rivera. Julian extended his hand with a warm, confident smile. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Rivera. You have a truly remarkable family. Thank you, she replied, her eyes quickly assessing him before turning back to me. Isabella, your father is near the bar with Alexander and some important investors. You should come say hello immediately. She didn't wait for a response before turning and expecting us to follow. She seems intense, Julian whispered, his tone gently diplomatic. Just wait, I murmured back. My father stood in a circle of men wearing expensive dark suits, all laughing at something Alexander Blackwood had just said. When he spotted me approaching, his smile faltered momentarily before recovering. There's my daughter, he said, giving me a quick, awkward, one-armed hug. And who's this young man? After introducing Julian again, I turned to Alexander Blackwood, who greeted me with considerably more enthusiasm than my own father had shown. Isabella, the woman of the hour, Alexander said warmly. I was just telling these gentlemen about how your Phoenix Tech software is revolutionizing our operations. 3 months into implementation and we're already seeing incredible results. The men in the circle regarded me with newfound interest and respect. You're behind the Phoenix system? Asked an older gentleman with a distinguished Southern accent. Blackwood hasn't stopped praising it, says it's saving his company a fortune in logistics costs alone. Before I could respond, my father cleared his throat uncomfortably. Well, Isabella always did have a talent for computers, he said dismissively. Derek's the one who actually introduced her to Alexander, you know, always looking out for his little sister in business matters. The lie hung heavy in the air between us. Alexander Blackwood's eyebrows rose slightly, but he remained diplomatically silent rather than contradict my father directly. Actually, I began, but was interrupted by the dramatic appearance of the bride herself. Victoria Blackwood floated toward us like she was walking a runway, wearing a stunning white designer gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her blonde hair was arranged in an elaborate updo adorned with tiny diamond clips that caught the afternoon sunlight perfectly. Isabella, you actually came, she exclaimed, air-kissing both my cheeks with theatrical enthusiasm. And in emerald green. How bold of you. Her gaze swept over my carefully chosen dress with the faintest hint of a condescending smile. Though I specifically mentioned the immediate family was wearing soft pastels for all the professional photos. You didn't actually mention that, I replied evenly, but congratulations, Victoria. Everything looks absolutely beautiful. Doesn't it? She beamed, linking her arm possessively through Alexander's. Daddy spared absolutely no expense. Derek is getting ready with his groomsmen right now. The ceremony starts in exactly 30 minutes. Her eyes landed on Julian with sudden obvious interest. And who might this distinguished gentleman be? After introductions, Victoria's demeanor warmed noticeably toward Julian. Julian Hayes, of Meridian Ventures? Daddy's mentioned your firm before in business meetings. You really must join us at the family table for the reception. Julian's hand found the small of my back supportively. Thank you, but I'll be sitting with Isabella, of course. Victoria's perfect smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, of course. Speaking of which, I should check with the wedding coordinator about the final seating arrangements. So many last-minute changes to accommodate Daddy's business associates. As she glided away, Julian leaned close to my ear. Is it my imagination, or did the temperature just drop 20 degrees? The wedding ceremony itself was elaborate but felt oddly impersonal, with a celebrity officiant, a famous string quartet, and vows that sounded like they'd been written by a public relations team. Derek looked handsome but nervous in his custom tuxedo, his eyes rarely meeting Victoria's during their exchange of rehearsed promises. Afterward, guests were directed to a massive white tent erected on the estate's main lawn for the reception. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm light over dozens of round tables draped in white linen and centered with towering floral arrangements that probably cost more than most people's monthly salaries. Let's find our seats, I suggested to Julian, scanning the elegant space for a seating chart. A harried-looking wedding coordinator with a tablet stood near the entrance, efficiently directing guests to their assigned tables. When I gave her my name, she frowned and scrolled through her digital list several times. Rivera, Rivera, she muttered, clearly struggling to locate my information. That's odd. Let me check the backup list. A growing sense of dread crept up my spine as she continued searching with increasing frustration. Here we are, she finally announced with obvious relief. Isabella Rivera, +1. You're at table. Oh. Her professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine discomfort. Is there a problem? Julian asked, sensing the tension. No problem at all. Just one moment, please. She hurried away, disappearing into the crowd of guests. 5 increasingly uncomfortable minutes later, she returned with an older woman who introduced herself as the catering manager. Miss Rivera, there seems to have been an oversight with the seating arrangements, she explained in a carefully lowered voice. The main reception tables are completely filled to capacity. I RSVP'd 3 months ago, I replied firmly. And I'm the groom's sister. The catering manager nodded apologetically. Yes, we completely understand the situation. We've arranged alternative seating for you and your guest. Alternative seating? Julian repeated, his voice sharpening with suspicion. If you'll please follow me. Rather than leading us to any of the elegantly appointed tables in the main reception area, she guided us through a side door and down a service hallway. The sounds of celebration grew increasingly distant with each step we took away from the party. Finally, she opened a door to reveal the busy catering kitchen, where staff in black and white uniforms hustled around preparing elaborate dishes. In the corner sat a small folding table with 2 plastic chairs, hastily covered with a white paper tablecloth. You cannot be serious, I said, feeling heat rise to my face as the full insult became clear. I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience, the manager replied, unable to meet my eyes directly. The bride made some very last-minute changes to accommodate important business associates. I'm a business associate, I pointed out, my voice dangerously calm. Blackwood Industries just signed a $30 million contract with my company. The manager looked genuinely confused and surprised. I wasn't informed of that connection. I'm simply following the specific instructions I was given this morning. Before she could continue, Victoria appeared in the doorway, champagne flute in hand, her eyes gleaming with barely concealed satisfaction as she surveyed the humiliating scene. Is there some sort of problem here? She asked, her voice dripping with false concern. Yes, there's definitely a problem, I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady and professional. You've seated me and my guest in the kitchen. I'm your husband's sister. Victoria took a slow, deliberate sip of her champagne before responding with calculated cruelty. We had to prioritize, Isabella. Daddy's business associates and our closest friends needed the premium tables. I'm sure someone like you can understand the importance of proper business relationships. Actually, I don't understand, I countered firmly. And I think Derek would be very upset to know you've relegated his sister to eating with the kitchen staff. Something cold and vicious flashed in Victoria's perfectly made-up eyes. Derek personally approved the final seating chart this morning, she said with venomous satisfaction. He knows exactly where everyone is sitting, including you. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. My own brother had agreed to this deliberate humiliation. This is completely inappropriate and unacceptable, Julian said firmly, stepping slightly forward. We'll be joining the main reception immediately. Victoria's perfect facade slipped completely, revealing the ugly contempt beneath her polished exterior. The help belongs in the kitchen, she sneered, gesturing dismissively at both of us. You should feel right at home here, considering your humble beginnings and current circumstances. The catering manager looked absolutely mortified, backing away from the confrontation. Several kitchen staff members had paused in their work, pretending not to listen, while clearly absorbing every word of this family drama. In that crystalline moment, something fundamental shifted inside me. Decades of being diminished, overlooked, and now openly humiliated crystallized into perfect, ice-cold clarity. I wouldn't cause a scene. I wouldn't lower myself to Victoria's level, but I would never again accept being treated as less than I was worth. Julian, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me, I need a moment alone to make a phone call. Would you mind waiting outside? He squeezed my hand in understanding. Take all the time you need. I'll be right outside this door. After they left, I stood alone in the bustling kitchen, invisible to my own family, yet holding the power to destroy the very empire that couldn't bother to give me a proper seat at their table. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The women's restroom off the main hallway was blissfully empty. I locked myself in the furthest stall, leaned against the door, and finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of this ultimate betrayal. Tears of humiliation and rage flowed freely as I covered my mouth to muffle any sound. How had I been so naive? How had I convinced myself that this wedding would be different, that my professional success would finally earn me respect and recognition from my own family? The pattern was devastatingly clear now, stretching back through decades like a roadmap of systematic dismissal and favoritism. I remembered my 18th birthday completely forgotten because Derek had a regional basketball tournament. They'd hastily bought a grocery store cake 3 days later, the candles drooping into melting frosting, as they explained how proud they were of Derek's athletic achievements. Then there was my college graduation from Stanford, summa cum laude, where my parents arrived 2 hours late because Derek's fraternity was hosting an alumni breakfast they absolutely couldn't miss. They brought him to my celebration dinner, where he dominated every conversation with stories about his summer internship at a family friend's company. And the day I signed the lease on Phoenix Tech's first real office space, bursting with pride when I called home, only to be told they couldn't talk long because they were hosting a barbecue to celebrate Derek's promotion to vice president at Rivera Construction, a title created specifically for him. Even today, on what should have been a celebration of family unity, I was literally being hidden away, deemed unworthy of sitting with important people despite being responsible for the largest business deal in Blackwood Industries' recent history. A gentle knock on the bathroom door interrupted my spiral of painful memories. Isabella? It's Julian? Are you okay in there? I wiped my eyes, took several deep breaths, and opened the door. Julian stood there with genuine concern etched across his face, holding 2 flutes of champagne. Thought you might need this, he said, offering me a glass. I accepted it gratefully, taking a long, steadying sip. I'm sorry you're witnessing this family dysfunction firsthand. He leaned against the wall beside me. Don't apologize. If anything, I'm getting a very illuminating look at what you've been dealing with your entire life, and frankly, it makes your professional success even more impressive. I sipped my champagne, considering his words carefully. The thing is, I don't actually need their approval anymore. I built Phoenix Tech without their support, encouragement, or investment. I have a team that respects me, clients who value what we've created, and friends who see me for exactly who I am. I glanced at him meaningfully. I have you. You certainly do, he confirmed with a warm smile. So what do you want to do? We can leave right now, get dinner somewhere civilized, maybe catch a movie, pretend this wedding disaster never happened. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I pulled it out to see Patricia Wells' name on the screen. I should take this, I told Julian, straightening. It's the operations director from Blackwood Industries. Julian nodded and stepped away to give me privacy. Patricia, is everything all right? Everything's perfect, Isabella. Just wanted to confirm our implementation meeting next week about the Phase 2 rollout, and to let you know the first major payment for the contract was processed this afternoon. $30 million. Right on schedule. As Patricia continued discussing technical details and praising our software's performance, a realization dawned on me with startling clarity. I wasn't powerless in this situation at all. I had built something genuinely valuable, something even Alexander Blackwood couldn't dismiss or replace easily. And while I couldn't change how my family saw me, I could absolutely change how I responded to their treatment. Patricia, can I call you back in about 30 minutes? I'm actually at the Blackwood Rivera wedding right now. Oh, I didn't realize you were attending. Of course. Enjoy the celebration. We can discuss everything on Monday. After hanging up, I turned to find Julian watching me with curiosity. What are you thinking? He asked, recognizing the shift in my demeanor. I'm thinking that I've spent my entire adult life hoping my family would recognize my worth, I replied, surprising myself with how calm and centered I felt. But maybe it's time I recognized it myself and acted accordingly. What does that mean exactly? I smoothed my dress and checked my reflection in the hallway mirror, wiping away the last traces of tears and applying fresh lipstick. It means I'm not going to hide in a kitchen like I'm ashamed of who I am or what I've accomplished. It means I'm going to walk back into that reception with my head held high and my dignity intact. And it means I'm going to make a strategic business decision based on how I've been treated, not on family obligation or fear. Julian's eyes widened slightly as understanding dawned. The Blackwood contract. Exactly. Alexander Blackwood wants the benefits of Phoenix Tech's software, but his daughter and my brother think I'm only worthy of sitting with the kitchen staff. That's not a business relationship I want to maintain long term. Are you absolutely sure about this? It's a $30 million contract. I took a deep breath, calculating exactly what this decision would mean for Phoenix Tech. Yes, the Blackwood contract was significant, but it wasn't our only major client. We had diversified well over the past 18 months, with several other Fortune 500 companies in our portfolio. Losing this contract would hurt financially, but it wouldn't devastate us, and the message it would send about our company values was worth far more than the money. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I replied. I deserve better than this, both personally and professionally, and it's time everyone understood that fact. Julian smiled slowly, admiringly. Then I'm with you, whatever you decide to do. We walked back toward the reception together, my mind crystal clear and my purpose absolutely defined. For the first time that day, I felt genuine peace, not because I was about to retaliate, but because I was finally valuing myself enough to establish non-negotiable boundaries, even with family. Just outside the reception tent, I paused, watching through the opening as Derek and Victoria moved from table to table, greeting guests with practiced smiles. They stopped at the head table, where Alexander Blackwood sat with several distinguished-looking businessmen in expensive suits, all raising glasses in celebratory toasts. That's where I should be sitting, I said quietly to Julian. Not because I'm Derek's sister, but because I'm the CEO of a company that Blackwood Industries desperately needs for their technological infrastructure. Then let's make sure they understand exactly who they decided to seat in the kitchen, Julian replied, offering me his arm with quiet support. With my head held high and my decision made, I stepped back into the reception, no longer seeking approval, but ready to command the respect I had earned through years of hard work and professional excellence. The reception was in full swing when Julian and I re-entered the tent. A jazz ensemble played from a raised platform while waitstaff circulated with trays of gourmet hors d'oeuvres and premium champagne. Crystal stemware and sterling silver gleamed under the elaborate chandeliers, and the buzz of animated conversation mixed with frequent bursts of laughter. No one seemed to notice our return, which was perfectly fitting given how they had tried to render me completely invisible in the first place. I scanned the room methodically until I spotted exactly what I was looking for. The head table where Alexander Blackwood sat with Derek and Victoria, along with what appeared to be several key business associates and potential investors. They were deep in what looked like serious business discussions. "They're negotiating deals," Julian murmured, following my gaze. I recognized Thomas Wellington from Coastal Developments. If they're bringing him into conversations, Blackwood must be planning major expansion projects. That explained the important business associates who had taken priority over family for seating arrangements. Alexander was using his daughter's wedding as a high-level business networking opportunity, and Derek was playing along, probably hoping to benefit from these powerful connections. "Perfect timing," I replied, straightening my shoulders with newfound resolve. "Shall we?" We made our way across the room, pausing occasionally as guests I didn't recognize offered congratulations on my brother's beautiful wedding. Each time, I thanked them politely before continuing toward the head table with unwavering determination. As we approached, I could hear Alexander mid-pitch to his captivated audience. By combining our resources with Rivera Construction for the residential development components while maintaining Blackwood's primary focus on commercial properties, we're projecting unprecedented growth. Derek here will personally oversee the technological transition, and with the new software system we've implemented, we expect to increase operational efficiency by at least 30% in the first year alone. Derek nodded eagerly, clearly thrilled to be presented as a key player in these high-stakes business discussions. Victoria sat beside him, one hand possessively on his arm, while she surveyed the room with the satisfied expression of someone who had orchestrated everything exactly as she wanted. They didn't notice me until I was standing directly beside their table. Alexander saw me first, his expression shifting from surprise to visible discomfort, as he remembered our earlier conversation about family connections. "Isabella," he said, straightening in his chair awkwardly, "we were just discussing business implementation strategies, something about software optimization that might interest you professionally." "Yes, I heard," I replied with perfect calm. "You were discussing the software my company created and implemented, the one your operations director specifically sought out because it's the best technological solution available in the industry." Derek's confident smile faltered as he looked between Alexander and me, suddenly sensing dangerous undercurrents he didn't fully understand. "Izzy, maybe we can talk about work stuff later? We're kind of in the middle of important discussions here." "Yes, I can see that," I replied evenly. "Using your wedding reception negotiate business deals while simultaneously seating your own sister in the kitchen with the catering staff. Very efficient use of time and quite revealing about your priorities." A noticeable hush fell over the immediate area. The businessmen at the table glanced at each other with growing discomfort, clearly sensing they had stumbled into family drama. There was a misunderstanding with the seating arrangements. Victoria interjected quickly, her voice tight with barely controlled irritation. "These things happen at large events with complex logistics." "Do they?" I asked pleasantly. "How interesting that the misunderstanding resulted in the CEO of a company you just paid $30 million to being seated with kitchen staff, while business prospects received priority treatment at premium tables." Alexander Blackwood's expression darkened with confusion and growing alarm. $30 million? What exactly are you talking about, Isabella? "Your company signed a comprehensive contract with Phoenix Tech Solutions 4 months ago. I'm the founder and CEO of Phoenix Tech. The software system you were just bragging about to these potential investors? That's my creation, my innovation, my business." Alexander's face registered genuine shock as the full implications hit him. He turned to Derek with sharp intensity. "You never mentioned your sister was the head of Phoenix Tech Solutions." Derek shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his face reddening. It didn't seem particularly relevant at the time. "Not relevant?" I echoed with dangerous quiet. You didn't think it was relevant that your sister's company was providing the core technology your father-in-law was investing millions in. Now isn't the appropriate time for this discussion, Victoria hissed, her perfect composure finally cracking. You're making a scene at our wedding celebration. I reached for my phone with deliberate, measured movements that commanded everyone's attention. You're absolutely right, Victoria. This isn't a discussion at all. I dialed a number from my contacts and held the phone to my ear, maintaining steady eye contact with Derek as it rang. David, it's Isabella Rivera. I need you to immediately cancel the $30 million contract with Blackwood Industries, effective right now. Derek's face went completely pale, his mouth opening and closing without any sound emerging. Alexander Blackwood half rose from his chair, his expression a mixture of disbelief and mounting panic. Isabella, what are you doing? He demanded. I held up one finger, continuing my conversation loud enough for everyone at the table to hear clearly. Yes, I understand all the financial implications. No, this isn't a negotiating tactic or leverage play. Please have our legal team prepare the termination paperwork immediately. I'll be in first thing Monday morning to sign everything personally. Victoria's composure shattered completely, her face flushing with rage and disbelief. You can't do that. Daddy just implemented your system across all our properties nationwide. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my clutch with practiced calm. I can, and I have. Phoenix Tech Solutions doesn't partner with organizations that demonstrate such poor judgment and fundamental lack of basic professional courtesy. This is absolutely absurd, Alexander sputtered, his business facade crumbling. You're canceling a multi-million-dollar contract because of a seating arrangement? No, Mr. Blackwood. I'm canceling it because this seating arrangement revealed the true character of your organization and your family. If this is how you treat a CEO when you think she's just someone's unimportant sister, I have serious concerns about how you'll honor our partnership agreements when larger challenges arise. The business associates at the table were now watching with keen professional interest, clearly reassessing both me and the entire Blackwood-Rivera alliance with new understanding. Derek, Alexander turned to my brother, his voice dangerously low. Did you know about this connection? About who your sister actually is in relation to our business operations? Derek swallowed hard, his voice barely audible. I knew she had some kind of tech company. I didn't realize it was the same one you were working with. That's a complete lie, I said quietly but clearly. Patricia Wells mentioned our family connection to you 5 weeks ago when she discovered it during implementation planning. She told me she spoke to you directly about it. Derek's face confirmed the truth before he could formulate another denial. Alexander's expression hardened as he realized he had been deliberately kept in the dark about crucial business information. We need to discuss this immediately. Alexander stood abruptly, grabbing Derek's arm. Somewhere private. Victoria rose as well, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. You're ruining everything, she hissed at me. This wedding cost over $3 million, and you're turning it into a business disaster. No, Victoria. You ruined it when you decided I wasn't good enough to sit with my own family. I maintained my composure, refusing to match her emotional outburst. I simply decided I wasn't going to accept that treatment any longer. As Alexander led Derek away with Victoria following closely behind, their urgent voices carrying across the reception, Julian placed his hands supportively on the small of my back. That, he said quietly, was the most professionally executed power move I've ever witnessed. For the first time that day, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Let's get out of here. I suddenly have an appetite for real food, preferably somewhere I can sit at an actual table. As we turned to leave, several of the business associates from the head table approached me, business cards appearing from inside expensive suit jackets like magic. Miss Rivera, Thomas Wellington from Coastal Development stepped forward first. I'd be very interested in learning more about what Phoenix Tech Solutions could offer our operations. Another distinguished gentleman joined him. Gerald Morrison, Apex Industries. I've been following your company's growth trajectory. Perhaps we could schedule a meeting next week to discuss potential partnerships. The very people Alexander and Derek had been courting were now approaching me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't feel any particular satisfaction from it. This wasn't about revenge or one-upmanship. It was about standing up for my professional worth and personal dignity. I accepted their cards politely, but didn't linger to network. My assistant will be in touch to arrange meetings, but right now I need to leave. As Julian and I walked out of the tent, the sounds of raised voices could be heard coming from the direction Alexander had taken Derek. The perfect wedding was unraveling, not because of my actions, but because of the choices they had made long before I arrived. We had barely reached the valet stand when my phone began ringing repeatedly. I silenced it without looking at the caller ID, already knowing exactly who it would be. The young valet brought my Tesla around, his eyes widening appreciatively as he handed me the keys. "Beautiful car," he commented respectfully. "Thank you," I replied, tipping him generously. It's amazing what you can afford when you build your own company instead of relying on family connections. Julian chuckled as he slid into the passenger seat. "Feeling a bit vindicated, are we?" "Just a touch," I admitted, starting the engine. "I think I've earned it today." Before I could pull away, a familiar figure appeared in my side mirror, moving quickly across the parking area. My father, his face flushed and his tie askew, was practically jogging toward the car. "Isabella, stop right there, young lady!" I sighed deeply and rolled down the window, but kept the engine running. "Yes, Dad?" He reached the car breathing heavily from the exertion, his usual composed demeanor completely shattered. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Alexander Blackwood is absolutely livid. Derek's wedding is in complete chaos. Your mother is in tears, and it's all because you couldn't handle a simple seating mix-up." "A mix-up?" I repeated incredulously. "Dad, they seated me in the kitchen, and Victoria made it crystal clear it was completely deliberate. So what if you sit where you're told at someone else's wedding? That's basic courtesy and respect. But instead, you had to make everything about you and your wounded pride." Julian leaned forward from the passenger seat. "Sir, with all due respect, your daughter is the CEO of a highly successful technology company that Blackwood Industries specifically sought out because of its excellence. She deserves significantly better treatment than she received today." My father's eyes narrowed as he took in Julian for the first time, clearly not appreciating outside interference. "And who exactly are you to tell me how my daughter should be treated?" "Dad, this is Julian Hayes. He's with me, and he's absolutely right. This wasn't about wounded pride. It was about basic respect, something I haven't received from this family in a very long time." "Respect?" My father's voice rose dangerously. "You want to talk about respect? You just canceled a major contract with your brother's father-in-law. Do you have any idea what you've done to Derek's position in the family business? Alexander was going to make him a partner in their next development project." And there it was, the real concern. This wasn't about me, my feelings, or even the wedding. It was about Derek's business opportunities, his chances to climb higher on the ladder of success that had always been extended to him while I built my own from scratch. "I'm sorry if my actions impacted Derek's business prospects," I said, not feeling sorry at all, "but I need to protect my company's interests and my own professional reputation. Blackwood Industries doesn't get to treat me like a second-class citizen while benefiting from my technology and innovation." "You need to fix this immediately," my father insisted desperately. "Call them back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, that you were emotional because of wedding stress." "I will not," I replied firmly. "The decision stands, and if anything, this conversation only confirms I made the right choice." My mother appeared behind my father, her carefully applied makeup now smudged around her eyes, looking genuinely distraught. "Isabella, please," she said weakly. "Derek is absolutely devastated. Can't you see what you're doing to this family?" "What I'm doing?" I felt a laugh escape, though there was no humor in it. "I've spent my entire life being overlooked and dismissed by this family. I built a successful company without any support, encouragement, or investment from any of you. And the first time I stand up for myself, I'm the one destroying the family?" "That's not fair," my mother protested weakly. "We've always been proud of you." "Really? Name one time, just one, when you've celebrated my accomplishments with the same enthusiasm you constantly show for Derek's achievements. One time you've introduced me to someone important, with the same pride you just showed for Derek's connection to the Blackwoods. Her silence was answer enough. The commotion had attracted unwanted attention. Several wedding guests had gathered at a respectful distance, watching this family drama unfold with poorly disguised fascination. Among them, I spotted my cousin Rebecca, who had witnessed the kitchen incident earlier and now gave me a subtle thumbs up from behind my parents' backs. "I think we should continue this conversation another time," I suggested, acutely aware of our audience, "when emotions aren't running quite so high." "There's nothing to discuss," my father replied coldly. "You've made your position very clear today. Derek is family. Alexander Blackwood is now family through marriage, and you just declared yourself against both of them." "No, Dad. I declared myself worthy of basic respect and professional courtesy. There's a significant difference." Before he could respond, another figure emerged from the main house. Derek, his face ashen and his perfect wedding attire now rumpled and disheveled, approached the car with Victoria and Alexander Blackwood trailing several steps behind, their expressions grim. "Izzy, what the hell?" Derek's voice cracked with genuine emotion. "Alexander is talking about pulling all his business relationships with Rivera Construction. Do you understand what that would do to Dad's company?" "I'm sorry, Derek. That wasn't my intention, but it's unfortunately the consequence of your choices." "My choices?" he shouted, uncharacteristically losing his composure. "You couldn't just sit where you were told for one day. You had to make some grand statement about your stupid tech company?" Julian tensed beside me, but I placed a calming hand on his arm, silently asking him to let me handle this confrontation myself. "My stupid tech company is valued at over $200 million, Derek. It employs 87 people across 3 countries and, until 2 hours ago, was providing essential technological services to Blackwood Industries. I didn't make a grand statement. I made a calculated business decision based on how I was treated." "Fix it," Derek demanded desperately. "Call whoever you called and tell them it was a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," I replied with calm finality, "and I'm not going to pretend it was just to salvage your business opportunity." Victoria pushed past Derek, her perfect bridal appearance now considerably disheveled, her face twisted with rage. "This is all your fault," she practically screeched. "You've ruined the most important day of my life because your feelings got hurt over a stupid table assignment." "Victoria, that's enough," Alexander Blackwood's authoritative voice cut through his daughter's hysteria. He approached the car with measured steps, his expression unreadable, but his posture conveying barely controlled anger. "Miss Rivera, I believe there's been a serious miscommunication today." "There's been no miscommunication, Mr. Blackwood. Your daughter made your family's position regarding me perfectly clear." "Nevertheless," he continued, "I think we should discuss this privately as business professionals. The contract between our companies represents a significant investment, and terminating it so abruptly would have serious consequences for both organizations." "I'm fully aware of all the consequences," I replied steadily. "My decision stands." Alexander's composed facade cracked slightly, revealing genuine concern beneath his business mask. "You're willing to throw away $30 million over a seating arrangement? I'm willing to walk away from a business relationship where I'm not respected as an equal partner. The money is secondary to the principle." A flash of something that might have been grudging respect crossed Alexander's features before he controlled his expression, professional neutrality. "I see. Well, my legal team will be in touch regarding the termination procedures and transition timeline. I'll have my team ready to facilitate the smoothest possible transition," I assured him. "Despite everything that's happened, I don't want your operations to suffer unnecessarily." This professional exchange seemed to infuriate Victoria even more. "Daddy, you can't just let her do this. She's trying to destroy us because she's jealous of what Derek and I have built together." Alexander turned to his daughter with a sharpness I hadn't seen before, his patience clearly exhausted. "Victoria, you've done quite enough damage for one day. Go back inside and attend to our remaining guests. We'll discuss this situation later privately." As Victoria stormed off, followed by my parents who were clearly overwhelmed by the escalating drama, Alexander leaned closer to my window. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, I had absolutely no knowledge of the seating situation. Had I known about it, I would have intervened immediately. Thank you for saying that, I replied genuinely. But it doesn't change my decision. He nodded once, straightening with obvious reluctance. I understand your position, and while I disagree with your choice from a business perspective, I can't say I don't respect your principles. He extended his hand through the window, a gesture of professional respect that felt more genuine than any family interaction I'd had all day. I shook his hand briefly before putting the car in drive. Derek remained standing in the driveway, his expression a complex mixture of anger, disbelief, and something that might have been dawning understanding as we pulled away from the estate. That was incredibly intense, Julian commented as we turned onto the main road, the Blackwood estate receding in the distance. Are you okay? How are you feeling? I took a deep breath, feeling the accumulated tension of the day beginning to ease from my shoulders for the first time. Honestly, I feel better than I have in years, like I finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't even realize I was bearing. The weight of constantly seeking their approval, Julian suggested perceptively. Exactly. I glanced in the rearview mirror at the estate, disappearing behind us. I spent so many years trying to prove myself to people who were never going to acknowledge my value. Today, I finally saw it clearly for myself. So what happens now? Julian asked. Besides finding a restaurant with excellent food and proper seating arrangements, of course. I laughed, a genuine, liberating laugh that surprised me with its lightness. Now we rebuild and expand. Phoenix Tech will be absolutely fine without the Blackwood contract. We have other clients, other opportunities, and most importantly, I have something I never fully possessed before. What's that? Complete self-respect, I replied simply. And it turns out that's worth significantly more than $30 million. The first email arrived at 6:47 a.m. Monday morning. By the time I walked into Phoenix Tech's headquarters at 8 a.m., my inbox contained 23 messages from various executives at Blackwood Industries, ranging from apologetic to increasingly desperate. Patricia Wells had sent 4 messages alone, each more urgent than the last, begging for reconsideration. Good morning, Riley, I greeted my assistant as I passed her desk. I assume you've seen the email situation developing. Riley nodded, her expression a mixture of concern and barely suppressed excitement. It's been absolutely non-stop since I arrived. Patricia Wells has called 3 times already, and Mr. Blackwood himself called 10 minutes ago asking when you'd be available for an emergency conference. Schedule a call with Patricia for 10 a.m. As for Alexander Blackwood, tell him I'm in strategic planning meetings all day, but can speak with him Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday? Riley's eyebrows rose. He seemed to think it was rather urgent. I'm sure he did, I replied mildly, but I need time to prepare our transition strategy with the team before I discuss anything with him. I had just settled at my desk when Nathan Phillips, our chief operating officer, appeared in my doorway, his expression curious and slightly amused. So, he began, leaning against the doorframe, want to tell me what happened at your brother's wedding that resulted in you canceling our biggest contract? I gestured for him to close the door and take a seat, then briefly recounted the kitchen incident and subsequent confrontation. When I finished, Nathan was silent for a long moment. I'd like to say I'm shocked, but after everything you've shared about your family dynamics over the years, it unfortunately makes perfect sense. The question now is how we move forward strategically. Already working on it, I replied, refocusing on business implications. The Blackwood contract represented about 24% of our projected annual revenue. We need to make up that shortfall quickly. I've got good news on that front, Nathan assured me. That demonstration we did for Meridian Corp last month. They've been hesitating about implementation, but I think with the right incentive package, we could close them within 2 weeks. It wouldn't completely replace Blackwood, but it would significantly soften the financial impact. Make it happen, I authorized, and let's accelerate our European expansion timeline. With Blackwood implementation resources freed up, we could redirect the team to international markets ahead of schedule. Our conversation was interrupted by Riley buzzing my intercom. Isabella, I have Thomas Wellington from Coastal Development on line 1. He says it's regarding a potential major contract. I exchanged a surprised look with Nathan, remembering Wellington from the wedding reception. Want me to give you privacy? Nathan offered, starting to rise. No, stay. I want your input. I pressed the speaker button. Mr. Wellington, this is Isabella Rivera. Miss Rivera, thank you for taking my call. I hope I'm not interrupting your morning. Not at all. What can I do for you? Well, after our brief interaction at the Blackwood Rivera wedding, I took the liberty of researching Phoenix Tech Solutions more thoroughly. I'm genuinely impressed with your track record and believe Coastal Development could benefit tremendously from your supply chain management system. I maintained a professional tone despite my surprise. I appreciate your interest. We'd be happy to arrange a comprehensive demonstration. Excellent. And there's something else, Wellington continued. I understand your business relationship with Blackwood Industries may be concluding. Coastal Development has been considering partnerships with them on several projects, but after witnessing Saturday's events, I'm reconsidering whether they align with our corporate values. Nathan's eyes widened, and I had to suppress a smile. I see. Well, Mr. Wellington, while I can't comment on Blackwood's corporate culture, I can assure you that Phoenix Tech values professionalism, respect, and integrity in all our business relationships. That was abundantly clear from how you handled a very difficult situation, he replied. I'll have my assistant coordinate with yours for that demonstration. Looking forward with you, Miss Rivera. After ending the call, Nathan let out a low whistle. That was completely unexpected. What exactly happened at this wedding? Let's just say it made a lasting impression on several important people, I replied, still processing this development. We should prepare our most comprehensive presentation. Coastal's property portfolio is actually larger than Blackwood's. By lunchtime, news of the contract cancellation had spread throughout the company. While I hadn't shared personal details, the senior team understood something significant had prompted such a drastic decision. To their credit, no one questioned my judgment, instead focusing entirely on solutions and next steps. My 10 a.m. call with Patricia had been difficult but professional. She was understandably upset about losing a system her team had spent months implementing, but her frustration seemed directed more at the situation than at me personally. For what it's worth, she'd said near the end of our conversation, I had no knowledge of the seating incident until Alexander told me this morning. It was completely unprofessional and inappropriate. I appreciate that, Patricia, and I want you to know this decision isn't a reflection on your team's excellent work with us. You've been outstanding partners throughout the implementation. Is there any possibility we could salvage this? Perhaps with different terms or modified conditions? I don't think so, I replied honestly. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. But I promise we'll do everything possible to ensure a smooth transition to whatever system you choose next. At 3 p.m., my personal cell phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I would let it go to voicemail, but something prompted me to answer. Isabella Rivera speaking. Isabella, this is Carmen Rivera, your aunt, your father's sister. I was momentarily speechless. Aunt Carmen had been estranged from our family for nearly 15 years, following some disagreement with my father that was never fully explained to us children. Aunt Carmen, this is unexpected. How did you get my number? I have my ways, she replied with a hint of amusement, and I've been keeping tabs on you from a distance. Your success with Phoenix Tech is impressive, though not surprising. You always were the brilliant one. Thank you, I said, still confused by this sudden contact. But why are you calling now after all these years? Because I heard about what happened at Derek's wedding, she replied simply. Word travels fast in certain business circles, and the Blackwood family is well connected. I called to tell you I'm proud of you. Proud of me? For standing up to the Rivera family tradition of favoring the male heir over the female innovator, she said firmly. It's about time someone broke that destructive cycle. What do you mean? Carmen sighed heavily. Isabella, why do you think I haven't spoken to your father in 15 years? It's the same story. Different generation. I built a successful architectural firm in the 90s when women weren't exactly welcomed in construction-related industries. Your grandfather and father decided my business was a cute hobby and gave the family construction company entirely to your father, even though I had worked there every summer since I was 14. The parallels were unmistakable and heartbreaking. I had no idea, I admitted. Dad never really explained why you weren't around anymore. Of course he didn't, Carmen replied without bitterness. It didn't fit their narrative. But I want you to know that what you did, standing up for yourself, means something profound. It breaks a pattern that's been poisoning our family for generations. We talked for nearly an hour, Carmen filling in crucial gaps in my understanding of our family history and sharing her own journey of building a business without family support. By the time we hung up, we had plans to meet for dinner the following week, a reconnection that felt both surprising and somehow inevitable. The remainder of the afternoon brought even more unexpected developments. Gerald Morrison from Apex Industries called to discuss not just potential contracts for his company's supply chain needs, but the possibility of Apex making a strategic investment in Phoenix Tech to fund our international expansion. Your handling of the Blackwood situation demonstrated exactly the kind of principled leadership we look for in investment opportunities, he explained. Sometimes walking away from the wrong partnership is more valuable than securing any amount of money. By 5 p.m., I had instructed our legal team to prepare final termination paperwork for the Blackwood contract, while simultaneously exploring 4 new potential client relationships that had emerged directly from connections made at the wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me as I prepared to leave for the day. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek, the first contact since our confrontation. "Need to talk in person, just you and me. Tomorrow lunch?" I stared at the message for a long moment, considering my response. Despite everything, he was still my brother. While I wasn't seeking reconciliation, I was open to hearing what he had to say. "Okay, 1 p.m., Luigi's on 5th. Just us." His reply came immediately. "Thank you." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how dramatically different the day had unfolded than I had anticipated. Instead of damage control and financial scrambling, we were fielding new opportunities and potentially stronger partnerships. The act of finally valuing myself had led others to value Phoenix Tech more highly as well. Julian called as I was preparing dinner, wanting to check in after the eventful day. "So, did Blackwood Industries implode without your software yet?" he teased gently. "Not yet, but Patricia Wells sounded pretty close to panic this morning," I admitted. "But the strangest thing happened today, actually several strange things." I told him about the calls from Wellington and Morrison, the unexpected reconnection with Aunt Carmen, and Derek's request to meet. It's like by standing up for myself, I accidentally discovered an alternate universe where people actually respect boundaries and recognize genuine value, I concluded. Or maybe, Julian suggested thoughtfully, this is just what the world looks like when you stop accepting less than you deserve. His words stayed with me long after we hung up. Perhaps this wasn't an alternate universe at all. Perhaps it was simply the natural consequence of finally recognizing my own worth and expecting others to do the same. The email from Alexander Blackwood arrived just before midnight, a formal, carefully worded request for a meeting to discuss mutually beneficial resolution options. I marked it for consideration, but didn't respond immediately. Whatever happened next would be entirely on my terms, not his. For perhaps the first time in my professional life, I felt completely centered in my own value, neither seeking external validation nor fearing disapproval. It was a powerful feeling, this newfound certainty, and it had taken a wedding seating chart to finally bring it into sharp focus. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't recognize your worth? Have you walked away from a situation where you weren't being valued properly? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people closest to us. But as I learned, they can also be the most transformative. Don't forget to like this video if this story resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about standing in your power, and share this with someone who might need a reminder of their own worth. Thank you for listening. And remember, you deserve a seat at the table, and you have the power to walk away if others don't recognize that fundamental truth.